Welcome to the Branded Assets Podcast, your place for hot takes on business, brands, and billion-dollar gossip. I'm your host, Kate Bouchard. Thanks for being here.
Hello, welcome to today's Rich Girl Rundown episode, where we're breaking down the latest in business, brand gossip, and billion-dollar deals. As usual, I'm here with my lovely co-host, Ada Slivinski. Hey, Ada.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course. This is one of my favorite things to do on the podcast, so thanks for being here. Today, we are talking about some really fun stories that I'm excited to get into with you. The first is about Emma Grede and her parenting style getting some flack online. We're also talking about how brands are showing the receipts when it comes to proving that their ads were not made with AI. And our last story is about from couch to cinema, why theaters are possibly finally making a comeback. Okay, first let's talk about Emma Grede and how she spends 3 hours on the weekends with her kids and doesn't cut cute shaped sandwiches for them or pack lunches. So you actually shared the story with me, and I'm glad that you did because it's been coming up a lot online. I am a huge fan of Emma Grede, so full disclosure there. I had her book on pre-order, and I'm about a third of the way through, but I followed her and looked up to her for years now, so I'm excited that you shared this with me to chat about. So if you're not familiar, businesswoman and star of Shark Tank, Emma Grede, just wrapped a press tour for her new book, which is called Start With Yourself, A New Vision for Work and Life, which, as I mentioned, I have here. Do you have the book, Ada?
I don't. I'll borrow it after you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm about like a third of the way through making progress with it. But so she's been promoting this book all across America and also in England, where she's from, and making some big appearances on a variety of TV and podcast platforms. And you came across an article about her taking some heat for her parenting style. Did you kind of want to share what came across for you?
Yeah. So I think there's two things that are interesting. What happened was she was on a podcast and was talking about how she spends 3 hours with her kids, 3 hours parenting on the weekends. And on one hand, awesome from a buzz building promotional PR perspective for a new book. You know, you hear that and you're like, oh my God, 3 hours. How can you be such a neglectful mother? It builds buzz and momentum for the book. But then when you think about, what is her reality as a businesswoman, as a mother, her kids are kind of the same age as my kids are now. So she has 4, ranging in age from 12, 13, the oldest, to twins around 4 or 5. So 3 hours of quality time with those kids is actually probably a solid chunk of time. When you think about like how much you're running around on the weekends, how much you're juggling everybody else's schedules, and also taking care of yourself and your business. So definitely, like, I saw so much conversation around this online. It was like the initial podcast, the initial kind of conversation from her. But then, of course, like it went to all the US news networks and there's blogs kind of popping off about this everywhere because as gut instinct, a lot of people just object to this as a premise. You know, why would you have kids if you can't spend time with them? And, no matter what we do as mothers, we seem to be shamed for something or the other. And I think it's very cool that she's naming what works for her. What I loved is that she kind of dubbed herself a high impact core memory mom. And so she says she cares about the big moments. She cares about things like Christmas and spending quality time with her kids, which, at least she has like a thesis on motherhood. I think a lot of people like they feel guilty doing this. They feel guilty doing that. They can't really feel like they're winning. And she's like, you know what? I pick what works for me and I'm going full steam ahead. And especially with older kids, they want you present, dedicated to them when you're with them. And it's less important maybe that you're just like around. And also we're assuming she has support in the form of, I'm sure, people helping drive her kids around, people helping around at home. I mean, a lot of people, once you get to that level in business and that income bracket, that's one of the things that you need to start spending money on. It's just about leaning into help where it makes sense for her and for her family.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have so many thoughts on everything that you just shared. First of all, if a man said this, I honestly think that it would hit differently. And when she was like, so I think this podcast came out just as she was starting her tour, like just before the book, I believe, hit store shelves. And so you had this like hooky edit which hitting social, right, without all the context, and definitely people not having read the book. And what I don't get in regards to especially motherhood and just like being a woman is people these days seem incapable of like taking what works for them in someone else's experience and leaving what doesn't when it comes to advice. Right? Like I don't think that what she's saying is atrocious. It works for her. And to your point, she's extremely privileged. Like she has chefs, housekeepers, people to drive her kids to school, probably full-time live-in, if not one nanny, nannies, right? And the idea of quality time versus just being around your kids and not giving them the attention is so true for me. Like when I think growing up with my parents, working parents, my dad and my stepmom had their own businesses, there I would have loved 3 hours on the weekend of just like quality time than just sitting with me being focused on me. And when I got that, it was amazing. So much of my time around my son, and my son's a lot younger than your kids, but is like me making dinner, cleaning up, like getting ready for his bath, getting his clothes in the laundry. I am so juggling so many responsibilities because I don't have the privileges that she has. And so I'm around my son more, sure, but I'm having to throw him in front of the TV or like order groceries on my phone or be in the car taking a call. To me, that quality time where your kids truly are your focus is so special. And I know that if I can connect with my son for a certain amount of time a day where it's just me and him involved in play together, truly focused on one another, not sitting in front of the TV watching a show necessarily, going to the park, that is so special. And this rhetoric that she's a bad mother, that mothers should have guilt about that kind of thing just doesn't land well with me. There's a quote that she shared, and I think it was on her podcast. If you want to live an exceptional life, you need to be exceptional. And the way that you spend your time will not look average. The way that Emma Grede spends her time does not look like the average because of where she is in her life and what she's building, right? And I think that the outrage online, I don't know if it benefits her in the end in regards to like getting more eyes on and having her more in conversation. I'd love your thoughts on that, but I don't think that it benefits women overall to be, looking to an exceptional woman and being so critical of something that she obviously has made a choice with. Her book, and again, I haven't read the whole thing yet, but it's all about trade-offs. You're not going to be able to be there for everyone all the time and running the type of businesses that she does at the scale that she does. And that's something that she trades off. She talks about how if she does go to a kid drop off at school, one day one of the parents would be like, oh, like, did you see all the school emails about what they have to do next week and their outfits and this and the volunteer? She's like, I don't volunteer in my kid's school. I don't, and I'm not going to feel guilty about that. And I think that's extremely empowering to have as a woman that choice and to be able to make that choice without feeling bad about it,
Well, and I think for different people, there's different things that make up the right combination at a certain time of your life or for the majority of your life. And it's really about what, as a human and as an individual, gets you excited. I think the title of her book is Start With Yourself. So for some people, that may be, homemaking and being around more. And for some people, it's pushing and building and growing and running a company. I mean, my kids both said to me on separate occasions, Mom, we don't want you around more if you're going to be grumpy and tired. And that was just such an eye-opening moment for me because at different phases of my life, I've, maybe tried to like scale back on how much I'm in the office or how much I'm working because, I should. It's like the most like you can feel the word should in your stomach when you say it. It's like the ickiest word when you like should be around more. But there really is no one size fits all for women, for families. Different kids need different things. Different families need different combinations. And also, like, those kids have another parent. And to your point from earlier, if we heard a man say that, I spend 3 hours on weekends with my kids, and it was somebody who was building big companies, you're 100% right that would land so differently because your reaction to that naturally is, oh, wow, what a great dad. He's making time for his kids. And, as much as like things have changed and the culture has changed, there's still this innate reaction to women versus men and what we think of should be the role of a woman and mother. So I think we're talking about it. There's lots of conversation about it. And I don't think it's bad PR for her. it's really just driving the conversation and ultimately eyeballs to her and her book. So,
Yeah.
I think it works for her. And more people should just be sharing what works for them, or we should all just like keep our head down and focus on our own business and don't judge other people in this regard at all.
Mhm. Mhm. And I mean, and the way that she handles the objection, because it came up in every interview, after. I think even like on the Today Show, it came up. And the way she handles the objection is just, to me, it's masterful. Like, she acknowledges it. She says, this doesn't work for everyone. This is what works for me. And that's what I'm sharing in the book. And yeah, I mean, especially with everything parenting wise, like, I don't, I just wish that people would realize that not everyone's advice is going to work for them. And that's okay. People are just telling you what has worked for them. And then you need to build what works for you.
Hmm.
I think there's lots of conversation here that needs to happen among women, and the reality of what it takes to build at the scale with the types of brands that she's building, and the understanding too of seasons. Like, when my son was born, I was full in build and launch mode, and I didn't take a maternity leave, and I wasn't as present in those early months as maybe would be important for other moms. And now I'm in a season where I am more present, and now the default parent. So I think it's just letting people do what works for them, learn what works for them, and be true to what makes them happy, to your point, and feel fulfilled. Summing up our rich girl POV, this is how Emma Grede manages her life. She's optimizing for scale right now, not sentimentality, not mom guilt. I like prepping lunches and cutting out cute shaped cookies sometimes, but I'm also not building at her level at the moment, right? And that's the trade-off. And she talks, it's actually a really good example for the premise of her book of the trade-offs in life. Rich girls, take what works for you and then leave what doesn't, especially when it comes to parenting and being a woman in this world. We need to get better at filtering advice and also acknowledging privilege. And that was a big topic and criticism that people made online and sort of part of the controversy as well. But she has all this help. She has all these chefs and these, and so of course she can spend 3 hours with her kids. But yeah, let's not take down successful women right at the jump of a hooky social media post. We're not doing each other any favors otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and it's just nice to see an example too of someone who's able to outsource some of those parts of their life, just like you would when you're building a company.
Hmm. Hmm. So true. Okay, so our second story today is how brands are showing their receipts. What do you got for me here?
Yeah. So this first came up in our home when I would find a reel or a TikTok online somewhere and it would take my breath away and I would send it to my kids in our group chat and they're like, "Mom, that's AI. That's AI." And sometimes it is. And sometimes I was like, "No, there's no way." And what's happening is big brands are also being accused of that same thing, that they're rolling out these really meaningful, impactful ads for key products. And they're being accused online of, oh, you must have built this with AI. So Apple is one of them. They rolled out their new Apple TV logo was accused of being made with AI. And we saw the same thing with Le Creuset. Lego had an ad that they were questioned, was this AI, but almost looked too good to be true. And
Mm.
so what we're seeing is brands actually showcasing the behind the scenes for their shoots. So we see Apple, how they actually video, and I had no idea this was how this was made, but video the Apple TV logo with the glass and then light kind of going around it, and you're seeing actual light reflecting off of a logo. And I never would have guessed this is how it was made. And in an age where anyone can create anything quickly and cheaply, it's that luxury of being able to be in a space, have a studio, have real people creating
Yeah.
creating the ads. Everything almost looks too perfect now, and that's why it's being questioned. When you look at the Lego ad, everyone looks flawless. Um, and these soccer stars they're just, it looks surreal.
Hmm.
So there's almost this like grittiness that comes across when you see some of the behind the scenes and some of the, defense of, hey, no, this is real and we'll show you proof. Kind of seeing two things happening at once. So on one hand, we're seeing these bigger brands, and we've talked about it before with Porsche and some of the ads that they made, and Hermes, I believe, and they're leaning into the real life. But then when you look at how people are shopping now and how they're consuming, more and more Canadians are using AI for what they call shopping related tasks. So
Mm.
there was a survey that was released earlier this year by a company called OmniSend, and they're like a marketing technology company. And they say that more than half of Canadians are using AI to shop. They also ranked like which kind of products lead in terms of shopping, and consumer electronics is the leading one. Kind of
Ah.
60% of Canadians are shopping for consumer electronics using AI to kind of rank what's best. I mean, often that's the first search that comes up. Even if you just type it into Google, it's not SEO, it's GEO right now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
generative engine optimization. So optimizing for how brands are showing up in that. And the true irony is human content and things that sound more human actually show up better in GEO. So the AI is optimizing for human created things. The brands who are getting that right are the ones who are showing up in real
Mhm.
life.
Hmm. Yeah, it was such an interesting story to me. Like, and I think it was an Instagram post that we were sharing back and forth, where you can actually see like behind the scenes of the Apple ads and all this. The art director in me just eats that stuff up. I love seeing how things are made like that, whether it's for a brand campaign or advertising campaign, or whether it's in manufacturing. I love seeing that, and it's so cool because like the tactility of how they create these things is surprising in today's day and age, right? Like real isn't the default anymore. And I hate that. I hate how we're having this another layer when we're like scrolling through, or we're having to constantly use a different part of our brain to go, huh, I think that looks kind of fake. Right.
Mhm.
So the fact that these brands are creating this like preemptive defense to possible criticisms that their ads might be a product of AI is fascinating to me, and it adds that additional level of content creation that's required of brands today to show the receipts, as we said. The area you mentioned, Aerie, I think in this piece that we were studying back and forth, they have. Am I right that they've committed to not use AI at all in any of their advertising and marketing?
Yeah, so Aerie is kind of the American Eagle sister brand. And they first made headlines for saying they weren't going to retouch their models.
Yes,
So
I
this is
remember that.
very, very on brand for them.
Hmm.
And they're committing again to using real models, not being retouched, and not using AI. Uh, a way for them, like, I guess if you're not retouching, then you also shouldn't be using AI, but a way for them to kind of be part of this conversation and
Hmm.
capitalize on this trend. And it makes them stand out. Like, I wouldn't say that Aerie is a luxury brand by any stretch, but
No.
because they are kind of taking this side, it's grouping them with higher priced, more luxurious brands, when a lot of their competitors are just kind of copy pasting AI models for a lot of their content online.
Yeah, I remember that the original campaign about no Photoshop and retouching, and showing various like body sizes, and kind of pushing back up against like negative body image in marketing. And so I absolutely love. You're right. It's totally on brand for them. I absolutely love that example. I had an interesting example that just like by happenstance like occurred over the weekend. I was scrolling on Instagram, and there was an ad that popped up for an outfit, like a two-piece set or something that was kind of cute. And I could tell it was from a cheaper, like probably like made in China kind of fast fashion thing. But I was like, I really like this. I think this, and I click through on it. And this is, I have suspicions about this. I've done as much research as I can, but I've not 100% confirmed this. Okay, just putting that out there. The ad was for a boutique called Charlotte and Olivia Toronto, and I went to their website and I started looking through things, and I was like, hold on a second, this outfit I have seen on a cheap fast fashion brand. I can't remember the name of it, but I've seen this exact outfit, and I was kind of interested in this two piece before, and I didn't buy it. But as I'm going through the imagery on their site, I'm like, the backgrounds are all different. The branding is all like off. This doesn't look like a Toronto boutique. You click through on the about page, and there's, to me, what looks like very much AI generated images of two women, maybe like in their 30s, 40s, in front of a boutique with Charlotte and Olivia on the sign and a Canadian flag in the background. And I'm pretty sure it's AI, Ada. And then I went to try to see I went to try to find an Instagram page and there's no followers, which, to advertise on Instagram, or on Meta, you need a Facebook page and an Instagram
Mm-hmm.
page, but there's no
Mm-hmm.
followers, no content. Then I started clicking through on the website and there's um, a page about hiring. Like we're looking for associates in our boutique, but
Mm-hmm.
just like a form to fill out on the website, no email address, no job application. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is a completely made up fake AI store that doesn't exist in real life. And I went as far down the rabbit hole as I could. But then I'm going, okay, so they're trying to make it look like a boutique, like local brand. They're geo-targeting people in Canada with fake imagery of two founders. If anyone knows anything about this or has come across this, drop a comment on Instagram or send us a comment on Spotify, because I am so curious if this is real or not. But this is the kind of level of thinking that we have to do as during our shopping experience, to your point.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole after we're done this. I am going right to that link and I'm gonna see what I can find out. But that's why, it's not only humans doing that research and doing kind of the legwork that you're doing, kind of looking at is this a real place, et cetera, but AI picks up human content first. It prioritizes human
Hmm.
content. And, I even out of curiosity did a search for how does my old firm, Jam PR, show up on AI? Because
Mm.
when I had that agency was no, I mean, there was
Mm.
AI, but it wasn't kind of the first tool that people are using. And there's all this information that's lives in a lot of the AI tools about that company, about the work that we've done. And the reason is it was a real company and we were out in the market.
Interesting.
We were talking, had clients, we had clients posting about us, and we had team members that were doing things. And so it's not just, that way of being in the world and showing up as a business owner wasn't just good back then. It's still that
Mm.
premise carries through to the AI space. And we honestly
Mm-hmm.
just need to lean on what makes us human and what works. It's almost like showing that you're real is like the version of the CAPTCHA now. When you go on
Mm.
a website and you have to fill in, click on all the traffic lights or on all the motorcycles to prove that you're not a robot. It's like, how
Yeah.
are you showing up in real life? How are you showcasing kind of the behind the scenes to show that you're a human, and that will speak to both your human customer and the way that they're thinking about brands and making their purchasing decisions, and it will also accelerate how you're showing up in AI. So it's not only, in real life, it's not only the real luxury, it's kind of the signal that's breaking through all of the noise that's out there. And, like you say, you're looking at this boutique, it looks similar to what you've seen before. And that's all noise that's going to be kind of filtered out at the same level. And we're only going to see more and more and more of it.
Yeah, all really great points, and I think that's a POV that rich girls need to have as they're working in their businesses and marketing their companies, but then also as a consumer too, right? Like there's so much noise out there, and if someone who's fairly savvy can be you know clicking on these ads and going, hold on a second, and a little bit unsure, we need to really think about that and how to stand out from that noise as marketers and moving forward as people trying to create and scale businesses. It's gonna be, I think there's gonna be a reckoning very shortly with a lot of this stuff, and I think that we're gonna see, we already are seeing people just so tired of the slop and the fakeness and those LinkedIn posts that all are the same. And it's about how do we use AI in a way that, you know, is productive and efficient and accelerates our growth, but is still human and connected and emotionally resonant for audiences.
Yeah. Well, and it's only going to get more and more expensive to compete with other brands doing exactly the same. So you need to find the white space, and often that's the human space.
Mhm. So true. Okay, so this one is super fun for me because I am a lover of film. And so I have a theory that we are going to see a return to cinema in a way that we haven't seen since before COVID. I actually last week went and bought some shares in Cineplex because of how I was feeling about this. And then since have, maybe it's like a confirmation bias, but have found articles and news stories that are confirming for me that intuition or that feeling of people going back to theaters. So Wuthering Heights, did you see that film
I did
with
not
Margot
know.
Robbie? No, okay. So Wuthering Heights was the first one that could go, there's something happening here. It was a significant box office success. It grossed over 240 million worldwide against an $80 million production budget. The reason that this one made me start thinking about this is that Margot Robbie's press tour did very well. The marketing that they were doing, was like very well received and drove a lot of discussion around the film. And it reminded me a bit, it was very reminiscent for me of the marketing around Barbie, but with an edge and a bit more obscure. Like the film was definitely not for everyone. It was, dark and twisted and very sexualized and kind of gross out in some ways. But her outfits for that were fire, just like they were with Barbie, and like very much evoking of the themes and the fashion and the costume design of the film. So I started noticing that there's something happening here again that reminds me of when people were going to theater a lot. Then The Devil Wears Prada 2 came out, and they made back 230% of their $100 million budget in 48 hours. 48 hours. And it was very much an event, right? Like, and that's kind of the thing that I'm seeing here. They did the press tours, they did the outfits, they did, creating like these experiences. There's private showings, people are dressing up and going to the movie. Amazon's film Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling did very well too. It did $600 million globally, and it became one of the year's top grossing films and a major hit for Amazon MGM Studios, which is kind of a new thing for Amazon. Toy Story 5 is coming out. The Los Angeles Times reported that the domestic box office revenue is up 23% compared to last year. So for me personally, this is exciting. Like, I think you may know, I was involved in independent film here in Vancouver. I was like at every VIFF. I was on the board of directors for the Vancouver Short Film Festival, and this is making me feel excited again about film as an art form, and then also like the business of movies and theater.
Well, first of all, I wish you had bought AMC stocks when they were going for their run, because if you were going to invest in the box office and movie theaters, that would have been the one to go for. I mean, I think Devil Wears Prada 2, I was there. I was part of that 230% revenue for them opening night, and definitely, went with the kids. But what stands out, and you and I have talked about this in the past as well, it's like, where else are you off your phone for an hour and a half, 2 hours? And the theater is still one of those places, the theater and church maybe, where it's like that uninterrupted time that you're off your phone. And watching the movie at home used to be a similar experience, but now it's so hard to get your family off their devices, off of whatever other distractions they have. So that, I think, is the appeal of the theater. It also, I mean, it's expensive, but it's not an exorbitant expense. And so it's one of those kind of outings that you can still do and somewhat accessible, especially with a lot of the promotions that Cineplex is running. There's that like excitement and community and energy that you just don't get at home. So I think you're on to something for sure. And, certainly the numbers speak to that with that impressive revenue. I almost wonder if we're going to see a division there where it's like those big cultural movies that hit, those will be the ones that we see in theaters, and then the straight to Netflix for a lot of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And one thing that came to mind when you were talking about streaming at home, streaming made everything accessible. Like we could all sit at home and watch it from your couch. The experience is so different though. You're not filled with a theater, everyone laughs at the same time, or you look around, people are crying, and I don't know about you, but like I have a harder time looking at my phone. Even we don't have an Apple TV remote anymore. It died. And so we have to use our phones to control our Apple TV, and I hate it. I want to leave my phone upstairs and I can't because I need to turn my TV on.
Yeah.
But there's so many ads now. Constantly, me and my partner are sitting down to watch a show, and it's like every 10 minutes there's 4 minutes of ads on Amazon right now. And in a theater you don't get that. You have the beginning and then you get to sit and enjoy the movie and be off your phone. So I think that's a really good point. Cinema is becoming premium again, and we've talked lots about experiences and in real life stuff, and I think that's just that sentiment is showing up here as well. So looking at our Rich Girl POV summary, when you see films like Wuthering Heights pulling 240 mil and The Devils Wear Prada almost doing that in their first weekend, that's not just luck. This is signaling that there's demand for something. And again, to that Margot Robbie example of her outfits and the press tour, they're not just promoting a film, they're creating these moments, these cultural moments. The fashion, the discourse, all of that, it makes the movie feel like a world that you're participating in. The biggest movie companies and streaming platforms are creating worlds for people. It's a part of that. And so that's what theaters offer. We know that people are craving that. I'm in serious need of inspiration and creativity and hope and sometimes distraction, right? And like, where else is it socially unacceptable to look at your phone other than, to your point, if you go to church but I've been to some prayer services, like singing prayer services that I go to occasionally, and people are pulling out their phone and recording it because it sounds so beautiful, right? I don't know. I don't go to church often, so maybe it's people are still pulling out their phones there occasionally. It's what we all need right now, right? And we don't just want content, we want to feel something. And I think that it'll be interesting to see if this trend continues for theaters. Okay, and as we always do to kind of bring our episode to a close, just what's on your mind? What are you seeing out there right now, and what brands or businesses are getting your attention?
Yeah, I mean, surprise, surprise, I'm coming at you with another Simple one. I'm obsessed with this brand. And so they just announced they're launching futures as a different kind of form of trading, catering to a different, more sophisticated trading market. They also had a really cool show last week called The Trade Off. And so they ran that in almost like an old school style studio as a YouTube live. So they're doing a lot right in terms of catering to that more sophisticated trading market. And
Okay.
then the other kind of trading news in this space is Coho has launched crypto trading, which is a very different move for them. They're not typically a trading platform. That's not how people have been using the tool. So it'll be so interesting to see what the demand is like in that regard, and if that's a successful move for them, or if they've been kind of cannibalized already by Wealthsimple, which is now we've heard definitively the largest trading platform in Canada.
I was in Wealthsimple the other day, and the trade-off thing, like, I had a pop-up, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I was focused on what I was doing. Did you watch it, and is it worth a watch?
I did watch it. I think it was very well done. Very much like old school TV talk show style. They
Cool.
had there's a big trader that you can follow on Twitter, Jam Croissant is his handle. And so they had him come on and talk about his strategy and what's worked for him, and looking at kind of the market and where he thinks things are going. Definitely interesting watch. And they almost kind of like interspersed the show with commercials about their product, and so they would talk about what they're
Mm.
launching and what they're rolling out. So yeah, I had it on. I was painting the house outside, and I had it on, and in my AirPods as I was doing that.
Well, I have to make some time for it, yeah. For me, I'm watching it's a bit more local gossipy story around, but it's a global brand, obviously, in Lululemon, where Chip Wilson sent out another public communication about his concerns around the board of directors of Lululemon. Actually, Lulu has hired a new CEO. I don't know if you saw that announcement. Her name is Heidi O'Neill, and she worked with most notably, I think, Nike for a lot of years, and there is hope that she's going to turn the company around and bring some innovation to this now extremely saturated market. But yeah, there's a lot of drama happening over there. What's interesting to me is for a company like Lululemon, where it is so saturated and there's so many other players, what role can branding and marketing play here? And it kind of, to me, depends very much on the strategic direction of the organization and like where they can find that innovation gap in the actual product. I don't think like marketing and branding necessarily is the solution to the problems that Lululemon is having. I think it starts more like at a strategy level. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to hear if you heard anything around this as well, just given like the local angle and some of the chatter.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest struggle for that company, truthfully, is getting Chip Wilson to be quiet, right? Like he's one of those founders that can't seem to walk away or let go. And no matter how successful the brand has been and how well he's built it, he can't let anybody else run it. He can't let go. And just like even from a psychological perspective, it's like what's going on over there that he can't let go of a company and let it be run by other people who you'd assume that he should be trusting at this point. Yeah, I really think that's their biggest challenge. Like from a PR perspective, this is
Mm,
what keeps coming up. This is the thing that will not die from the brand. So the rest of it is kind of common for like apparel brands. Nike's going through similar challenges, Aritzia with like activewear, all of that. Similar marketing differentiation, brand challenges. But this is the one where the founder just keeps stepping in it and causing more and more issues for the company.
That's a really interesting take. I think, I know that he still does own shares and stock in the company, and I think that could be the reason, or that could be used as defense, I guess, getting involved. But at the other point, it's like you are creating this backlash, and you are creating this news story again. That news does impact, and PR does impact the value of a brand. And if a new CEO is coming into place, that could be like a signal to the market that things may be taking an uptick. And if the original founder is then poo-pooing that decision and trying to influence the board to the extent that he is, that creates uncertainty, right? So I think that's a really interesting take. I mean, I still love Lululemon, and I do purchase Lululemon. I really hope to see this company turn around and go back in the right direction versus losing shareholder value. Finding their legs again, and the way to compete and innovate against like the Aloes and all of those of the world who have launched since and really taken so much market share from them.
Yeah. Well, and there's different ways to influence companies, executive and board than going public, right? Like if every
Hmm.
founder or every leader who had a problem wrote a public letter, like it would be a disaster, it would be a mess. And so there's a
Hmm.
lot of different ways that you can have your voice heard. And if you're making a good enough point, people are going to start to listen. So this
Hmm.
is just like strange behavior to watch, truthfully.
Well, wishing the new CEO Heidi the best of luck, and I'm interested to watch and see what happens in the coming months and years for sure. Okay, well, that's all we got today. Thank you so much for your time and these stories. It's always so much fun to film these with you, and looking forward to our next Rich Girl Rundown episode next month. And if you haven't already, just a little reminder to follow Branded Assets and myself and Ada on Instagram, and hit that subscribe button on whatever podcast platform you listen to Branded Assets on. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Thanks so much, Ada.
Thanks, Kate. See you next time.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Branded Assets. Power looks better when women are in the room, so thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, follow the show, share it with a friend, and join us on Instagram at Branded Assets. We're just getting started. I'm Kate Bouchard. See you next time.